The story begins by showing a couple of demonic figures known as absolutes. These absolutes were responsible for creating the different universes in their realms and then created countless creations within these universes. But soon, these beings got bored and wanted to create something for their amusement. So, they started to create wars between their own creations, and they observed these wars with excitement as the creations fought each other to the death. The absolutes really enjoyed this, so they continued it for a long time. Their creations were unaware that the wars they were fighting were nothing but mere entertainment for the absolutes. But an incident occurred in a universe where an absolute observing a war was murdered by one of his own creations. This was the same universe where Jinho lived. While the other absolutes were just observing this war without interfering, their only concern was a world without a master and a power-up for grabs. They wondered who would be the one to obtain this power. The absolutes were enjoying all this suspense. The story shifts to the present, where a boy named Suho, a college student, tells his friends about being selected to study at an art university, and tells them he was leaving to start his studies there. His friends, showing disbelief, said that it was not possible. How could someone like Suho, who was so unrefined, be selected to study at an art university? Suho starts laughing and says that finally, he is free from this hell. In the background, they hear someone's voice congratulating Suho for getting selected to study at an art college. The person says he didn't know that Suho had any talents and was shocked to hear that he was selected for an art college. It was Lee Yunchul, the class bully. Suho purposely mispronounces his name to irritate him and calls him Sungchul. In response, Lee Yunchul gets angry and, staring at Suho, says his name is Lee Yunchul. He tells Suho that thanks to him, his plan to take over the high school was ruined. In the background, a couple of students say that Yunchul is doing it again and acting so childish on graduation day. Another student says that he is always bullying the person who has lost both parents and is still trying to be positive. The scene shifts to Suho, where Lee gets ready to punch him. Suho easily dodges the strike and launches a kick to Lee's face, telling him that why don't they live a quiet life until they graduate? But we see that Lee was unharmed by that strike. Suho is shocked, thinking how Lee was still standing after that hit. Lee tells him he didn't feel anything. We see Lee's hands start to emanate light as he charges his punch. He strikes Suho, who barely dodges the hit. Everyone is shocked to see the scene as the locker where the punch landed is destroyed. Lee is also shocked and doesn't understand what is going on. But Suho realized that Lee has just awakened his powers. The story fast-forwards to 2 years later, where Suho was on his way to college. On his way, he saw a dungeon gate that had appeared in the middle of the street. The way is blocked by some officials who are guiding people to stay clear of the area because a gate was opened, and some hunters had entered this gate to the dungeon in order to clear it of the monsters. If they don't clear the dungeon on time, the monsters from that dungeon will overrun the place and harm everyone. So, the people stand there waiting for the hunters to finish the raid and return to this world. We see one detective asking another person how long it has been since the hunters went into the dungeon, to which the person replies that it has been 8 hours because it was a D-rank gate, but they will be back out at any moment. We are told that these gates started to appear 3 years ago, changing everything. Monsters from those gates started appearing and harming humans. To defend themselves, humans also changed. Some people randomly started to gain superhuman powers, like super strength, speed, and magical abilities. The amount of power these people received varied, so they were divided into different ranks. It was impossible to predict where these gates would appear or how long this threat would last. One person named Wu Jinchul formed the Hunter Association and started gathering awakened humans. After that, being a hunter became a profession, and people felt a lot safer knowing that hunters were out there to protect them in case more gates appeared. Humans were divided into 2 different categories, awakened and non-awakened. Our main protagonist, Suho, has not awakened his powers yet. We see him sitting in his class, painting and thinking about his past. He reflects on how he was bullied by his classmate Lee and says that no matter how much a non-awakened human tries and works hard, they can never compete with an awakened person. A non-awakened person can't even compete against an E-ranked hunter. If the hunters did not stop the monsters coming from the gates, the world would end. A non-awakened person can't survive without an awakened person, but an awakened person can survive without a non-awakened. This is why he wants to be like the hunters, because they make everyone else feel safe. On the other hand, he feels his survival is dependent on others and feels powerless. He thinks of his father and wonders how he would have handled this helpless situation. Suddenly, Suho hears a voice calling his name and sees that his art instructor is standing behind him. The instructor asks him what he was painting and comments that he looks really focused today. Suho reveals that he has made a humanoid ant. Suho is also confused about why he drew this and why he didn't notice it while drawing. After that, we see the scene from outside Suho's college, where the hunters are returning from the gate after completing the dungeon raid. Everyone is very happy to see them coming out unscathed. We see a worker telling the leader of the hunter team, named Kim, that they did a great job clearing the dungeon. Kim replies that they have successfully cleared the dungeon but have some important information to relay to the Hunter Association. They had faced off with a new type of monster in the dungeon. Those monsters were humanoid and had blue flames coming out of their bodies. These monsters were not as strong compared to the other monsters they had faced in the past. Kim also said that he was only scratched by them and it's not a big deal. But little did he know that the scratch he received in that raid was going to be the reason for everyone's death. The worker replies that maybe those are some new types of monsters they haven't encountered before and expresses relief that they weren't that dangerous. But suddenly, the scratch that Kim had received from the fight starts to glow, and he begins to feel weird. The people there do not notice anything until the worker standing near Kim notices something is wrong and asks Hunter Kim if he is okay. By then, Kim has completely transformed into a monster, with the same blue flames coming out of his body like the monsters in the dungeon. Hunter Kim grabs the worker and bites him. Everyone else standing there is shocked by the scene, and one person in their party shouts that these flames are just like those beasts they saw in the dungeon. They realize what is going on, and everyone starts running to save their lives. But Hunter Kim bites another person, and he gets infected as well. Gradually, everyone there gets infected by the virus, and all this commotion attracts the attention of Suho and his teacher. The whole class runs to the window to see what is going on outside, and to their horror, they see everyone attacking each other. They see the street flooded with monsters, and everyone bitten starts acting like the other monsters with flames coming out of their bodies. A girl standing next to Suho asks if this is a dungeon break. Some students suggest they should run, but others say they should wait for the hunters to arrive. One of the students present in the room asks his instructor, Lin, who is also an awakened, why he isn't doing anything. Lin replies that he is only an E-rank awakened and can't do anything in this situation as they were arguing. Suho saw an infected person in front of their building, staring at them. Before anyone can react, the infected jumps at their building, smashing through the window and attacking everyone. All the students scatter to save themselves. As Suho is running, he sees a girl on the ground who is hurt and unable to stand. She asks Suho for help, but Suho, scared, tells her to wait as he will bring back help and runs from there. The girl keeps asking for his help. While running, Suho thinks about what he has done. He left that girl back there to die, but as a non-awakened person, there was nothing he could do. A non-awakened person is no match for a monster. He thinks about his father and what he would have done in this situation. Back in the classroom, we see that the monster starts approaching the girl to finish her off. Suho attacks the infected person from behind with a fire extinguisher, saving the girl in the process. He thinks in his heart that if his dad were here, he would have done the same. We see a screen appearing in front of Suho. He sees a flashback from his past when he dreamed of the same thing as he was experiencing in the present. That dream, to him, was like a game where he had awakened his powers and fought with monsters that grew stronger with every passing floor. Suho kept leveling up and fought his way through them. He thought he didn't need any weapons or help as he was strong enough on his own to defeat all these monsters. He fought countless monsters in these dungeon floors, and after overcoming these numerous challenges, he eventually managed to reach the final floor, where he faced the final boss, who was incredibly powerful. In that dream, for some reason, the final boss he was supposed to face was none other than his father. Suho believed that he projected his father's perception into his dream because he thought of his father as a very strong person. The flashback ends, and we see Suho picking up a fire extinguisher and charging toward the same room where the injured girl was, intending to save her. After reaching her, He bashes the monster's face with the fire extinguisher, saving the girl and diverting his attention towards himself. After that, he thinks about how he is going to get out of this situation, as attacks without mana don't do damage to monsters. As he is thinking this, Suho notices that time has stopped and sees a notification screen in front of him that says, "You have met all of the requirements to complete the secret quest, Courage of the Weak. You now qualify to become a player. Do you accept?" Suho is confused as to what is going on. Why has time stopped? And why are these notifications showing up in front of him? He thinks of his dream and realizes that this feels just like that dream. And if things play out as they did in that dream, then there's no reason not to accept this in a hopeless situation like this. So, he says he accepts. With a flash of light, another notification pops up in front of him, congratulating him for becoming a player, and he receives a quest reward, Secret Quest, Courage of the Weak. With that, he is gifted a blessing by the great spellcaster Kendaiori. He also receives a status effect, Longevity, meaning that Suho will be immune to all diseases, poison, and status effects, and will have explosive regenerative abilities when sleeping. The system also warns him that this is not a dream, and he only has one life, so he must exercise caution. A status window opens, showing Suho all his current stats. Suho gets happy after seeing the status window, thinking that he can get even stronger by leveling up. A final notification pops up, giving him a quest to take down the Mistburn and level up. After that, Suho notices that time has started again, and everyone is moving, including the Mistburn that he had struck earlier. He sees a text prompt on top of the Mistburn in front of him that indicates their ranks. He tells the girl behind him to run. Suho looks at the monsters, seeing 2 unawakened Mistburn and 1 D-rank awakened Mistburn. The 2 unawakened Mistburn run towards Suho, but he easily defeats them by hitting one with the fire extinguisher in the face and punching the second one through the roof. Suho is surprised to see his strength. A notification pops up, telling him he has defeated an unawakened Mistburn, and he was also surprised thinking he defeated that monster with 1 punch. Happy with his newfound power, he kicks another Mistburn, neutralizing him with 1 hit. A new notification opens, telling him he has leveled up in this phase of the tutorial and he has reached level 2. He receives the quest completion reward, but he completely ignores it, thinking that he is strong enough. He launches an attack on the final Mistburn, but that Mistburn was a D-ranked awakened Mistburn, and Suho's punch had no effect on him. The Mistburn attacks Suho, scratching his chest. Suho kicks him to create some space between them and sees the damage done to his body. He is sure that now he is going to turn into a Mistburn as well because he has seen how the virus spreads by getting bitten or scratched. He thinks to himself that he has just awakened his powers, yet he is about to get monsterized. Another notification shows up, warning him that a harmful status effect has been detected in his body, but through the effect of longevity, the blessing he received earlier, all status effects have been neutralized. He sees his wounds getting healed. In the midst of that, he didn't realize that the D-rank Mistburn was charging toward him. The Mistburn grabs him and pins him to the ground. Suho struggles to get him off of himself and realizes that if he was weaker than a D-rank awakened, that meant he was just an E-rank. As the Mistburn gets closer to his face, he thinks there has to be a way out of this and suddenly remembers the notification that he ignored earlier, telling him that he had gotten rewards from leveling up. Suho accepts the rewards and sees a window showing him that he had gotten some points to increase his strength. He puts some of his points into strength and kicks the Mistburn off of himself with all his might. The Mistburn gets up and is swiftly punched by Suho in the face again, but even this time, it wasn't enough to hurt this D-ranked Mistburn. The Mistburn attacks Suho again, scratching him, but because of his longevity status, he manages to survive the hit. Suho thinks that if this wasn't enough to defeat this Mistburn, then he will have to put all of his points into strength. As he does that, he thinks that he has never heard of an awakened who can level up before, as their rank is decided the moment they awaken, and no awakener can become stronger than their rank. He punches the D-rank Mistburn again in the face, and this time, he manages to hurt it. He keeps on attacking, while thinking that he has gained the power to escape this damned system, and unlike other awakeners, he can increase his strength and keep getting stronger. He punches the D-ranked Mistburn with all his strength, launching it through a concrete wall. As he stands there, Completely exhausted from that battle, he sees a notification congratulating him on defeating a D-rank awakened Mistburn, and he has received a bunch of level-up points from that fight. Suho sits there, thinking that he has won, and says that with this, he is also awakened. He gets up, happy thinking that he can now save other people and put an end to this disaster since he is awakened now. But he didn't notice that another awakened Mistburn had spotted him in the building and was approaching him. The Mistburn launched itself toward the building while Suho was assessing the situation outside. But by the time Suho noticed this Mistburn, it was too late. The monster was already at his face. As this awakened Mistburn got closer to Suho, he saw the prompt on top of him stating that it was a C-rank awakened Mistburn, even stronger than the one he had just faced. The Mistburn attacks, and we see an explosion in that part of the building. The scene shifts, and we see the chaos that had taken place in the city. The army had arrived to try and handle the situation, but was unable to take down these monsters on their own, and were waiting for the hunters dispatched by the Hunter Association to arrive. One of the soldiers reports to their superior officer, telling him the Hunter Association is having a hard time finding hunters who are B rank and above. In response, the commanding officer replies that this was only a D rank dungeon, but the soldier mentions that the Hunter Association is taking the infected hunters into account. The officer responds in disbelief that even a C-ranked hunter was also infected. Meanwhile, back at the university as the dust settles, we see the C-rank infected staring at Suho, who was surprised to see that this Mistburn had jumped up here from the floor below. Suho sees the rank of this monster above his head, realizing this was a C-rank awakened, and was also holding a weapon. He thinks this one is different from the other monsters, but instead of trying to run away, he thinks he had just leveled up, so he was going to try and fight this thing. Instantly, the Mistburn swings his sword, almost cutting Suho in two, but Suho manages to dodge the strike just in time. The wall behind Suho gets split in two. Suho stands there in disbelief, and the monster gets ready to attack again. As he swings his sword, Suho jumps to save himself from the hit, and the fire extinguisher that Suho was holding explodes. Suho uses this distraction to run away. He thinks it's impossible to win against something like that, and there was a reason that the Awakened were divided into ranks. He thinks if he just waits for the hunters to arrive, he could survive this. Behind Suho, we see the Mistburn come out of the classroom, and instead of chasing Suho, it starts to smirk, looking out the window. Suho wonders what he was up to, and suddenly notices three girls standing on the roof of the next building. The girls look scared, seeing all these monsters running rampant around their school, and fail to notice the Mistburn that has just jumped toward them. By the time anyone could react, it was all over, and we see Suho standing there in disbelief as he just witnessed those innocent girls getting killed by this monster. He gets furious and jumps to the roof after the Mistburn, thinking there was no time to wait for the hunters to arrive. He kicks the awakened Mistburn behind its head, but an attack like that has no effect on a C-ranked Mistburn. The monster stands there smirking. The monster swings his sword again at Suho, and he jumps back to dodge it. He knows that even a single hit from that thing is enough to kill him. He sees the pool of blood on the floor and gets ready to fight, saying he can't let this guy run loose. He starts delivering a series of punches on the monster while dodging its strikes, and finally leaps in the air to deliver a knee to its face, but all that had no effect on this monster. The Mistburn manages to land a solid strike on Suho, launching him several feet away. As he hits the wall, blood starts to come out of his mouth. Suho sits there, accepting defeat. He sees his HP has dropped down to 1, and thinks that he got lucky and that this system doesn't want him dead yet. As the Mistburn gets ready to deliver the final strike, we see a crack in some kind of a wall. Suho stands up, accepting his fate, and the monster runs towards him with full force. As it was about to strike Suho down, the wall breaks, and an explosion happens between Suho and the Mistburn, stopping the creature from advancing. A humanoid monster appears in front of Suho. The monster starts to heal him and says he was too late. The monster, furious, looks behind him at the one responsible for Suho's condition and blows that C-ranked Mistburn away with one hit. Suddenly, we see all the monsters in the area start to explode. This humanoid monster was so strong that he killed all the infected in the city in no time. The military was standing there, shocked, trying to figure out what was going on. why all these mist burns were just exploding into pieces. After clearing the city from the infected, we see the monster kneeling down in front of Suho, saying that it has been a while and calls him the young monarch. We see Suho as a child who was making drawings. He had made an ant, and we see a demonic foot in front of Suho, but instead of getting scared, he gets excited. The demonic figure picks up the drawing that Suho had made, calls him Lord, and asks him if it was him in that drawing. We are shown the face of the monster, and it was the same monster that had saved Suho from the C-rank mist burn. The story fast-forwards to the present, where we see an injured Suho in a hospital who had no memory of how he got there or who saved him. After some time, we see Suho on a call with his uncle, who is furious to hear what had happened to his nephew. He asks him if he was hurt badly, to which Suho replies that he was fine, and we come to know that Suho had been unconscious for 2 days. He sees the news where everyone was concerned with the recent events that had taken place, the discovery of the mist burn, and the fact that they can even corrupt and turn hunters into monsters had the public frightened. At the same time, everyone was furious at the fact that the Hunter Association did not respond in time despite the incident occurring in the middle of the city. Finally, there was the mystery of how all the mist burns ended up dead by the time the hunters arrived. One survivor of the attack tells the news that he saw the demonified people explode in front of him. The scene shifts to Suho, who was thinking that his awakening wasn't a dream and that he was really awakened. To make things better, unlike other awakened, he can level up and get stronger. But then he thinks to himself that he was hurt while fighting a C-rank awakened mist burn. How did he survive that? He suddenly hears a voice replying to him that Baru was the one who took care of those mist burns. We see a shadow emerging from below Suho's bed, and we see an ant head telling Suho that it's been a while since he greeted him and bursts into tears. Suho sits there shocked as his childhood memories come back after seeing this monster, and he says that he remembers this ant. He says that Baru was one of the black life forms that accompanied him in his childhood and wonders how he forgot it until now. Baru tells him that he had jumped through dimensions to meet him, while Suho, completely ignoring Baru, was thinking about why he was living with these black creatures in the first place. He asks Baru what happened to him and why he was so small, and Baru replies by telling him that most of his energy was spent jumping through dimensions. Suho tells him that the status window says that Baru was only a regular grunt. Baru gets furious listening to that and curses the system, saying he was a martial rank, not a grunt. Suho stands up from the bed and asks him if he was the one who healed him and saved his life, to which Baru replies, yes, and tells him that he is a really skilled healer. Baru tells him that the main reason he came to him was to break the seal that stopped Suho from using his powers, but Suho managed to break it himself, and Baru was impressed. Suho was confused by what he was talking about and asks Baru about the seal and if it has something to do with his dream. Baru tells him that those were no dreams, those events were real, and he tells him he was a lot stronger in the past when he fought against Baru. He tells him that the great shadow monarch, Jinwoo, sealed away Suho's memories and powers so he could live a normal life. Suho was shocked after hearing his father's name and finding out his father was the one who sealed away his memories. He grabs Baru and asks how he knew his father and where he was. Baru replies that his father didn't leave him. He left for space. Suho asks him to explain himself, and Baru tells him his father, the great shadow monarch, is fighting a war in space against invaders who seek to take over the world. He tells Suho about the Iterim, who sent out their apostles to attack their world. He tells Suho that he had to tear apart countless enemies on his journey here to meet Suho, and he tells Suho that the reason that the gates started to appear on Earth must be caused by the war as well. Suho was silently listening to Baru and asks him about his mother, if she was also in space with his father. Baru, surprised, asks why Suho asked him that question. Suho tells him that she went missing the same day his dad disappeared, so he assumed that they were together. Baru gets shocked after hearing this because he thought that Suho's mother was on Earth with him. We see an angry Suho asking Baru if this all was caused by this Iterim and if they were the reason he was separated from his parents. Baru asks him if he wants to meet his parents, to which Suho replies, of course, he has spent so many years by himself. Baru tells Suho that his father can't return to Earth until this war is over, so Suho has to become stronger to find out about the whereabouts of his mother. Baru whips out a key and hands it over to Suho, telling him, "Let's start leveling up." We see a screen open up in front of Suho, showing him a quest. You are the son of the great Shadow Monarch. Your skills are currently sealed away. To channel your power once more, you must prove that you are worthy. Head into the Shadow Dungeon and prove yourself. Suho grabs the key, and an interface opens up showing the details of the key. Asterisk item. The key to the Shadow Dungeon. Acquisition difficulty. Unknown. Type. The key allows you to enter the Shadow Dungeon. You can use this on Suho's shadow. Baru tells Suho to stick that key in his shadow. Suho does as Baru asked him to do, puts the key in his shadow, turns it, and sees a door opening in front of him. Baru asks Suho to enter the door and take back what is rightfully his. As Suho is standing there, still in disbelief, he thinks about everything that Baru has told him and starts getting ready to enter the dungeon. As he thinks of his parents, he says he will level up as much as he has to in order to meet his parents again. We see a flashback of when Suho's father asks Baru to go to Earth and undo Suho's seal. He was concerned that the Iterim's invasion may have reached Earth, so he wanted Baru to return Suho's memories and powers to him and help him defend Earth. He tells Baru to work out the details based on Earth's current condition. As they were about to enter the dungeon, Baru said that he would always stay by Suho's side to watch him grow. The gate closes as they come out of the other side. Baru tells Suho that this is the land of the dead, where no living being can enter without the owner's permission, and it is called the Shadow Dungeon. As Suho was entering the land of the dead, he comments about the place, saying that it looks more like a ruined city than a dungeon. He was getting a familiar feeling from this place, as this wasn't his first time being here, and a quest opened up in front of him. Survive the dungeon for the allotted duration and prove your worth. Required time, 4 hours. Suho asks Baru if he really has to survive this dungeon for 4 hours, and Baru tells him to be on his guard. We see a monster standing and observing them both from a distance. The monster launches towards Suho, but in the nick of time, Suho notices it and dodges the attack while kicking the demon away. It was a goblin scout. Baru tells Suho that a scout means there may be more nearby. So Suho says that if this is a scout, he will finish him off quickly before he calls for reinforcements. The scout is about to call for reinforcements, but Suho manages to stop him and snatches his axe. A notification opens up, telling him that he has acquired a goblin stone axe. He strikes the goblin in the head with the axe, killing him on the spot. Another notification opens up, telling him that he has defeated a goblin scout. Suho finds out that monsters stronger than him have colored names showing over their heads. Suddenly, they notice another scout sitting on a pole, and he manages to call for reinforcements. A horde of goblins appears. Suho, scared, asks Baru if he will help in this fight. Baru tells him that, being so far away from the monarch, his mana isn't being replenished, so he must preserve as much strength as possible. He also tells Suho that even if he intervenes in this battle, the experience gained by Suho will be greatly decreased. While they are talking, the goblins start to attack, and Suho excitedly says he wants to try the new weapon he has obtained and calls it to him. He throws the axe, and it slices through a bunch of goblins and returns to Suho. This was another ability that Suho obtained when he awakened his powers. A goblin shoots an arrow at Suho, but he easily grabs it and launches it back at the goblin. While Baru is observing all this, he is really impressed by Suho's adaptability. Baru remembers that even as a child, Suho was able to use the ruler's authority as he pleased. But back then, this power was too dangerous. As Suho was effortlessly defeating the horde of goblins, he gained a level. He got distracted by that and was stabbed in the back by one of the goblins. Suho punches him in the face and rips the knife out of his back. As all the goblins start to attack him, we see Suho going berserk in the fight. He keeps slicing through all the goblins, and during that fight, he learns a new skill, resilience, and gains a bunch of levels. After an intense battle with the goblins, we see a tired Suho sitting on top of a car. He has survived the dungeon for all 4 hours. Baru praises him, telling him that he is amazing and that Baru never doubted him. But Suho replies with anger, telling him he didn't help him until the end. Suho sees a notification telling him he has received some rewards for completing the quest. He got a rune stone that grants the ability of shadow extraction. He asks Baru if he can learn the shadow extraction skill by using this rune stone. He remembers he had also gained another skill while fighting called resilience, which increased Suho's physical defense by 20%. While talking, Baru explains to Suho that the level-up mechanism is based on the system the monarch used in the past. It is a support system designed to ensure your safety as you grow. Suho takes out the rune, and a text tells him to break it in order to absorb its power. Suho breaks the rune, and instructions pop up in front of him, explaining how this ability works and the failure rate of the extraction, which will increase relative to the stats of the target and time since death. Suho sees a dead goblin near him and decides to turn him into a shadow soldier. As he tries to use the ability, another text appears in front of him, telling him to specify a designated command for the shadow extraction skill. He uses the word arise. We see 3 dead goblins getting up, but they are much weaker and smaller compared to when they were alive. Suho thinks it's not as cool as he thought. Baru tells Suho that the freshly extracted shadow warriors are usually weaker than when they were alive. Suho also finds out they disappear after a day. Baru explains that this stat is affected by the person's intelligence stat and level, and as he levels up, so will shadow extraction. After Suho was done with the dungeon, he tells Baru that he has not eaten in 2 days and asks him how they get out of this dungeon. Baru tells him to use the shadow dungeon key to open a gate to leave the dungeon. And that's it for this chapter. I hope you had as much fun watching it as I did bringing it to you. If you enjoyed the content, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to stay updated with the next installments. Your support is incredibly appreciated and helps me keep the exciting adventures coming. Stay tuned for more epic stories.